Audio on demand from Vision Christian Media.
You're listening to Momentum, a show that helps men succeed in life. And as we delve into this week's topic, a reminder that some of the content may be of a sensitive nature. Now, here's your host, Des Kennedy.
Hi there, this is Des from Momentum. Welcome to another Momentum show. And just before we go any further, as always, I just want to remind you of MomentumAustralia.org. That's our website. Lots of great feedback. Please post questions. Podcasts are all there. And if you want to financially support Momentum, that would be really good. So you can get in touch with us through MomentumAustralia.org. And also, guys, don't forget our care line, 1-800-000-MEN. That's 636, 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. for a safe and confidential conversation. And also our YouTube channel, Momentum for Men. Lots of our YouTubes are all up there now, so you can see us as well as hear us. And so this week, we're actually doing a show from the Sherwood Cliffs Rehab Centre, somewhere a little bit different. And so I'm with Colin and Chantel Kemsley. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for coming all the way out here and finding it.
And so we're here to talk about the rehab centre, and these guys are doing an amazing job. They don't get any government grants. They do it all by faith and by trusting God that they'll provide for this amazing ministry. And the ministry is a rehab centre. They bring men, families into the centre and help them to change their lives. So tell us a bit about, I might ask Chantel if you can tell us about how the centre was formed. How did it come about?
So back in the early 70s, mid-70s, my parents, John and Honey Reifler, were over in Western Australia. They were doing some ministry over there, and they were really praying about what God wanted them to do. And they felt called to start a place that people can come to find safety, to refresh, to find healing and find God, you know, to find that ultimate healing. And they just knew it would be a place, that people can come. They can be safe, they can learn, they can not just be loved, but learn to love. And so they bought the property and started living here, and immediately, they had people with them.
Oh, wow.
Getting help in their little van, living in their combi bus.
So did they have any structure around them, or they just got people in, sat them down and talked to them? I mean, is that the way it worked?
It really started really organically. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And then
I love that.
Through the time and over the years, obviously more and more structured program and it all kind of outworked. So what you see around when you walk around, just remember there was enough.
Is actively involved in the centre as well. And he's a teacher, and it's just amazing life. Colin, tell us about your early experience, how you ended up actually coming as a guest to the centre, as a client to the centre, and how that all unfolded for you.
Well, it started off having a drug addiction problem.
Right.
At a very early age. It was a young age.
You mentioned earlier you were 12 years of age when you started doing drugs.
So
wow.
12, 13, started getting into drugs.
Is that just because it was Coffs Harbour or?
No, this was Lismore at that point.
Oh, Lismore. Okay,
Lismore,
right.
So not mainly because of that. I don't know. It just seemed to be something I gravitated towards.
Right.
I just came across it actually in the paddocks and started doing it myself, by myself. Right. So I was kind of...
So would you say you found it in the paddocks? What does that mean? Well, when you're walking through a field and
the neighbours sort of grew their own stuff, and I happened to stumble across it and thought, what was this? And then you
knew what to do with it.
And I just sort of gravitated towards that. But I think as a kid, I was always sort of looking for something a little bit more than what I had.
Right.
So it kind of attracted.
So can I explore that with you? I mean, what does that mean when you said you were looking for more than what you had? Was that just a life emptiness thing, or what? Was there something missing in your life, or how would you describe that?
Yeah, I say it would be. Very young parents.
Right.
Extremely young. Mum 16, dad 17. So they were doing a lot of growing up as I was growing up.
Yeah,
so,
of course. Yeah.
It was difficult for them. They negotiated it extremely well, but Dad got Ross River fever. He sort of went from being around to not much,
right?
Because of the Ross River fever.
Yeah.
And because we were bouncing from place to place, every 2 years, Dad was kind of like the person that I hung out with most.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we went to Lismore and we stayed there long term, and Dad was suffering from Ross River.
Right.
It sort of was like, well, I had no one now, and looked for friends and then that sort of thing. So
you didn't have a strong father figure, which is so key for so many
well,
boys.
I did in the beginning, but then when he got sick and stuff, it sort of it faded away, and then I didn't have that there. So I sort of was looking for something else, and I knew the Christian God because I'd been brought up in a Christian home,
right?
But I didn't really want anything to do with that. I just thought it was all kid stories and stuff. So and then I gravitated towards drugs. I guess I had a void to fill, and it seemed a good thing to do. So.
Well, and I think you were saying before, because it is more, there was easy access to the drugs. You knew where to get it. You knew. So how often would you be taking drugs when you were like 12, 13, 14? Was that like a daily thing? Or
no, just occasionally. That was just like dabbling, just here and there. But then as I got older, it was more and more.
Yeah.
And then it was harder stuff.
So at what point, obviously that the sense of enthusiasm for the drugs and the impact they had and the temporary release you got from doing drugs. But obviously at some point you said, enough's enough. I have to do something different. Tell us that story.
Yeah.
And you related to me the story in particular about your mum and what your mum said to you. Tell us that story.
Yep. Okay. My mum is very pivotal. She's a lot like Chantal. She's a rock.
Very focused.
Yeah, very focused. Lovely woman. And so they all knew I had a problem. I wasn't living at home. I was living, all over the place. And physically I was shot. Mentally I was, not doing real good. It was pretty obvious.
Were you working at that stage?
No. So I refused to work.
Oh.
I was of the belief that I watched my parents work and all they did was complain about the bills they had to pay and all the responsibilities of their job. And I figured, well, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just enjoy your life? Just go and do stuff you want to do. So I actually just went on a mission to fulfill every hedonistic desire I had.
Wow.
Because that's how you got what you wanted, right?
Right.
So if you wanted to party and sleep with someone, then you did that because that's what you wanted to do. So anything I wanted to do, I just did. So, because I felt like, well, that's how you get happiness.
Yes.
So I was on that kind of thing. And of course, drugs was a big part of that. So if you want to do this drug, then do that drug. If you want to do something else, do that. And
So obviously you were getting deeper and deeper into drugs. You weren't working, you were partying and all those things. So what was it hit you that you need to do something different?
Well, obviously I had a few relationship breakdowns and everything was sort of, life was just falling apart. I got to the point where the drugs weren't giving me the release and the happiness that I wanted. I couldn't escape my problems anymore. Like even though I was getting high, they were still there. I was still sad all the time and still mixed up. And so I, the more and more I did it, it just didn't make it any better. It seemed to make my health worse and my mental health. And I was just starting to go off on the, different planet from everybody else. And so I went home and I just figured, well, home's safe and it's secure and, I'll hang out at home. And Mum cooked us up a family meal to have a family meal together. And I figured, I'll sit down and do that, because, reminiscing of old times and things. But I couldn't hold the meal down and end up being sick halfway through the actual meal, which is pretty embarrassing when you think about it. But my mum broke down and she broke down and she said pretty clearly to me that she never raised her little boy to turn out like me. And it just really hit home really hard.
I can imagine.
That, why would my mother want to raise someone who's become like myself? And that really, I guess it just put me in somebody else's shoes to visually look at myself and go, look at yourself. Like you are not working out. Things are not adding
It's not
up.
positive. Yeah.
No, it's going nowhere really fast.
Yeah.
And the people that love you most can see that. You know, these are not people that are nobody. These are people that love you. And that really hit home to me. And I knew like things were falling apart so badly that I knew that I had to do something, drastically. Otherwise, I wasn't going to survive too much longer. So,
So what did you do?
Mum suggested to come to rehab, and this happened to be the Sherwood Rehab,
right?
Which had a long history in our family through my grandfather. So I had to eat a lot of humble pie to sort of, ring up and say, I'm Colin and I need rehab. And
wow.
But I just figured I got to do it.
Yeah.
Like I can't not do this. I've either got to do this or I don't do this. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. And Chantel, you were saying earlier, just to bring you back into the conversation, you were saying that is so critical to people who come to the centre. They must take that initial move. Tell us about that.
To make that initial contact.
Yeah.
That's what we require, that whoever it is that wants help, that they make that call.
Yeah.
And just say that it's not a big thing. I know it can feel really, really difficult.
Yes.
But we just want to hear that, yes, I have a problem and I want some help.
It's taking ownership of their issues.
And taking
That's
responsibility
so
because if you're just doing it for someone else or because someone else thinks you should, it doesn't work out as well. So it's all part of that, being able to recognize that my life is out of control and I need to do something. And really, really important. So that's where Colin got to experience that.
So Colin, you signed up. What was the first few days like in that experience? Do you remember?
I do remember, because it's funny that you think the property's amazing and it's a great experience, but I tell you, coming here as an addict, it's creepy.
Oh, really?
It's like, where am I,
Yeah.
And
it's a fair bit out of civilization.
Like you're in the middle of nowhere, and then there's these Christian people who pray and like hold hands and stuff, and you're thinking, what is this place? Like, this is crazy. Yeah. It's really daunting, really daunting. We eat our meals together at night as a community, so there's a lot of kids in there and there's a lot of people, and it's a big event. Like dinner's a big event, to sit in there and, you isolate yourself when you're a drug addict. So you just, you want to be alone.
Yes.
And then to be told, no, you have to come to the dining room to eat dinner.
Yes.
Firstly, you're not hungry.
Yes.
And secondly, you don't want to be around all these people. And it's really difficult to sit.
Even people who were drug addicts themselves, was that confronting for you?
To sit with them during dinner? Yes, it's very confronting because you're forced to be in community with people.
Yes.
And it's part of the program. Like, you have to be. There's no choice.
Yeah.
You don't get to say, no, I don't feel like it tonight. I'm going back to my room. No.
Yeah.
The program is at 6, you come to dinner and you eat with everyone else. When you look back at it from the perspective of what we have now, it's just so essential, like healthy food and healthy socialism and like it's so healthy. Yeah. But when you're at that point in your life, you don't want anything to do with that stuff. You just want to stay away from it as much as you can. So it's difficult.
And that's amazing. We're going to take another short break, and then we're going to come back and explore a bit about how Colin went through that process, what it looked like, what it felt like, and how you come out the other end. We'll be back shortly.
You're listening to Momentum, a show that helps men succeed in life. Find out more at momentumaustralia.org.
If this program has highlighted something you'd like prayer for, we'd love to pray for you. Call 1-800-PRAY-FOR-ME. That's 1-800-772-936. It's a free call. Or text 0401 132 888.
You're listening to Momentum, a show that helps men succeed in life. Find out more at momentumaustralia.org.
And just before the break, we're talking to Colin about, him getting to the point in his life, which could have led to suicide or led to recovery. And so he chose recovery. Well done. That's the first step, which is fantastic. And so there you were in this Christian environment, which you didn't feel comfortable with. You were with people who you didn't know at first up front. So what was the experience like? Because there'd probably be people listening to this show who maybe have drug problems, and the idea of going to a rehab centre may frighten them. Mm-hmm. Tell us how you got through that.
Stubbornness.
No, that's good. Well, you obviously knew that you had to get through it, right? You really didn't have a lot of choice.
There wasn't really a lot of choice.
Yeah.
It was like, do this or do what it was I thought I was going to do. And it's not a real good option to end your life. So,
yes.
I really do think it was a bit of stubbornness. I was like, well, it's this or nothing, Colin. Like, I just in my head, it's this or nothing. Everything in me was like, why don't you just go back and party with your friends and just have fun with your friends? But I knew where partying led. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't fulfillment. It led me to suicidal desires.
Well, at least you do more and more drug taking for a start, right? Because you get to a point with the drug, I guess, and I haven't been there, but you get to the point where what you've been taking doesn't satisfy you anymore, so you have to have more or stronger drugs or different drugs.
Yeah.
And so that path is never good, right?
No.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I could not function without it.
Yeah.
So it's that master-slave stuff, where you become a slave to it. Yeah. Like at the beginning, it's fun, you're doing it because you want to do it.
Yeah.
But at the end, you're doing it because you have to do it. Yes. Like there's no questions like, let's just go up the Gold Coast for the day and hang out. Yeah. Well, how am I going to get drugs if I go up to the Gold Coast for the day? There's nothing that you did in life that didn't revolve around trying to get something to get high.
Yes.
And there was no freedom in that. It was it's a lot of bondage in that.
What made you say, I'm going to persist with this? I'm going to drive it through?
It would be probably when I looked at the staff that were working here at the time. Yeah. There was a something in there that I saw, a solidness of characteristic, even though that I could tell they were working with difficult people, and I could tell that,
like yourself.
Yeah, I was one of those difficult people. I wasn't. I can tell you, Des, I was not easy to get along with. For the first 2 weeks, I was. I was terrible. I was terrible. I was so self-centered that I wasn't even polite enough to say hello to someone that would talk to me.
Oh, right.
If you'd say hello to me, I'd just walk straight past you. Yeah, and that's the amazing part of Sherwood. It is the working part. It's just to get out there and flog yourself, physically for the day, dig holes and cut trees and, just work physically so that at night time you go home and you're like, wow, I'm actually tired because I've worked all day. Yeah. That's so essential, that physical exhaustion.
Yeah, get that. And also that would make you not want to have drugs.
Takes your mind off it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good, healthy distraction.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
And time for your mind can process a lot when your body's doing something.
I think it has a lot to do with problem solving, especially from a man's point of view, is that we're problem solvers.
Yes, so that's true.
When you get into a situation where you're using drugs to solve a problem and it's working, you're fine. Yes. But when you're using drugs and it's not solving the problem anymore, you're now stuck looking for another way to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And if you don't get out of that mental headspace, you just go down so quickly. So working during the day, it's like, oh, here's a problem. And guess what? We solved that problem. We fixed it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have dinner and you go home and sit in your room by yourself and it's back again and it's like, oh, I've got all these problems again.
Yeah.
But then as you grow in that, the next day it's like, well, what are we doing tomorrow? We're mowing lawns or we're doing, we're doing something. All of a sudden there's these problems that are achievable and you have support with you to help you.
Oh, cool.
And you go through that process of learning that you are capable of doing these things with support around you.
Yeah. So, Colin, you've gone through all that process, which is amazing. I just love what you've gone through and telling your story. It's amazing. So Colin, tell us about what you did then. I mean, did you get a job, or do you mean you were surfing? But ultimately, you obviously found yourself here.
God really paved the way, and I had no sort of vision to do anything, but he really did pave a way.
Yeah.
He surrounded me by amazing people.
Yeah.
Who really just encouraged me to do stuff, anything. Yeah. The two ladies that were in the TAFE course were key ladies in my life.
Yeah.
Not Christian ladies, just teachers in there. And they would ring me when I didn't turn up.
Wow.
And hassle me and say, come into class, you need to come to class,
How cool.
And they knew I'd be surfing, so they but they would hassle me and they hassled me and they pushed me and they pushed me. And every day they just got me to stick at this one thing, and I completed this course. And little by little, I started to realize I completed rehab, and I completed this course, and I completed this course. And I started to just really realize that if I put my mind to things, I can do those things.
Yeah.
And then God just used each one of those things to just guide me to the next thing and to the next thing.
Wow, so good.
Yeah.
So, Chantel, question for you. So I'm somebody who's realized that I'm not coping with life because of drugs or alcohol, addictions of some description. And I phone you and say, help, I need help, right? What is the process at that point?
Yeah, so the process is once the person makes contact and just and recognizes that, I need help. What do we want from people? We want them to be committed to change. We want them to know that
that's key.
They want change in their life, not just because they have to, but to really want that. And it is a long-term residential rehab at 6 to 12 months, so it's a big commitment. It's not a couple of weeks. It's not, like we were talking before, one of the big focuses for us is it's a place to practice and it's a place to really action the stuff that we're learning and refine it. And how can I not just gather information on my own situation or how to do things differently or, in a, maybe a more healthier, positive way, but what does it actually look like for me? And that's, where community comes in. We believe, we're created for relationship and community and we operate best with others. And I know it might feel like we don't and we think we could do it better on our own, but we really do believe that with other people, we will always be better. It's working out how to do that and nutting that out. What do I need to work on for me? So once they've made that phone call, we send out an application form, which they need to fill in and get back to us for an assessment. And once we've got the application back and everything's, looking good, then they go onto the waiting list. Yeah.
So you say to me, yes, you've met the criteria. We have a bed for you.
Yeah. Then they have to arrange detox. So we do require minimum 7-day detox prior to coming.
Right. So there's no live drug in the system, if I put it that way.
That's right, yes.
Okay. I've got clear urine.
They get dropped off or we pick them up from Coffs Harbour or Grafton if they've travelled on public transport. Yeah. But, they've gone through, it's a really tough week. That detoxing can be really, really tough. So the positive that we see is that by the time they get here, they do really want to do it.
Yeah.
They've done a really tough week, but they're ready for that next part.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
Then they're brought in, we show them to their room, they're checked in up there, then come down, do some office admin, bit of check-in there and tour of the place and then welcome to the community at the next meal. This is all the different people and then it's straight into it. Whatever time of day, they might arrive in the morning and once they've got their bag unpacked and done, they're in with the group, whatever everyone might be doing. It could be on lawns, could be, up the shed, down the paddock, or, could be a group session that we're doing.
Right, no,
so, straight into it.
So cool.
We get people from all over the place that want to come and be a part and help out and volunteer. Some come for a couple of weeks. We've got a couple here that just arrived last night here for a week to help out and serve. And
if somebody's listening to this and say, I'd really love to help that ministry, it's a God ministry, they're helping people, what would you recommend they do? Go onto the website for one.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a look at the website. Give us a call.
We've been talking with Colin and Chantel Kemsley. Kemsley?
Yes,
that's
Kemsley,
right.
Yeah,
from Sherwood Cliffs Rehab Centre, Christian Rehab Centre. And so thank you guys. Let me honour you and say, I love what you do. I love what you've set up here. And I know it's second generation. I understand all that. And all your volunteers who come in. But, it takes strong leaders to drive something like this. And you guys obviously have that skill. So thank you for your time. It's great to get to know you.
Thanks for finding us out here. And if you're listening, come visit. Drop in anytime.
What a great idea. That's cool. We'll be back again next week.
You've been listening to Momentum, a show that helps men succeed in life. For more information or to hear this week's show again, go to momentumaustralia.org. You can also access a whole range of resources to help you on your journey and to get in touch with the team at momentumaustralia.org.